My name's Matthew, and welcome to Intro to Programming, Chapter 1. So, this little web series, web course, I plan on it to be like five 20-minute-ish videos where I'll be teaching you guys the bare bone basics to programming using the Python language. And so, this series is targeted for people new to programming, people that are interested, want to try Python, and I think it's also could be a good refresher course for people that are more advanced in programming. Okay, get my mouse to move. So the agenda, I'll talk about what is programming, give you a very quick history and future programming, talk about why program, how a programmer thinks. We'll do our first Hello World program, talk about variables, and getting user input and giving output. Okay, my mouse is being a little bit sticky. So what is programming? Basically, it's giving your computer a set of instructions to follow. And coding is the actual lines of code which describes a program to the computer. There's many programming languages, but some common ones include Python, C++, Swift, Ruby, and JavaScript. I'll point out that HTML is not considered a programming language. It's more so the structure of a website. And if you didn't know, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So, history of programming. For the sake of time, I really won't be getting into these figures, but feel free to pause the video and look at the bullet points or do your own research. So, history of programming. Ada Lovelace, she's considered the first computer programmer, 1815 to 1852, and she worked on an article about the analytical engine. Here's a picture of her on the left, and I believe the analytical engine on the right. Next up, we have Alan Turing, mathematician, computer scientist, 1912 to 1954, and in 1936, he invented the Turing machine. And here's a picture of Minecraft and Magic the Gathering because people were able to replicate the Turing machine using both of these, using Minecraft and also replicating it using Magic the Gathering. Here we have Fortran, developed in 1954. I believe the first commercial coding language was developed in 1954 with Fortran. Well, it being Fortran. And it was made by John Backus and his team at IBM. Fast forward to 1984, Apple and IBM come out with new models. The GUI was used, graphical user interface, and mouse, which was it made it more accessible for people new to computers, more easier to use. Okay, and future programming. As time goes on, we're making developments in AI, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, algorithms, and we're making revisions, updates to coding languages, or making new coding languages. So why program? Programming allows us to automate, and with data, we can collect it, manage, calculate, and analyze it. It boosts our problem-solving skills and our logical skills, and how a programmer thinks. So they use logic when solving problems, they structure problems into objectives to complete, break things down into simple steps, follow the code they write step by step to see faults in logic, and they turn the abstract into concrete. So now we're going to dive into our first program, Hello World. So in order to do that, let's talk about setup. So first, you'll go to like either Safari or Google Chrome or what have you. In my case, I'm in Safari. and you'll get to Visual Studio Code. Just search that up, and this URL says code.visualstudio.com, and you'll download this application. It's I don't believe it's considered an IDE, but it's kind of like a text editor. So think of like Microsoft Word or Notepad, but it's more advanced and geared towards programming. So get the version for your machine. I'm on Mac. You can get Windows or Linux. After you've downloaded that and set that up, you'll go to, if you're on Mac, you go to python.org and download the most recent stable version, which I believe is 3.8.5. Now, if you're on Windows, I would like for you to go to the Microsoft App Store and look for Python and download it there. And just get the most recent stable build, which I believe is also like 3.8.5. Okay, so once you've completed that, you'll go to your desktop and you'll make a folder. So I've already made a folder called Matt's Code. You can name it whatever. This is where we'll store our Python projects in. Well, for me, I'll be like in my own folder, but this is an example, Matt's Code. And if you don't know how to make a new folder, just be on your desktop and right-click. And Mac, you'll do Control and then click on the trackpad, like if you're on the laptop, and go to New Folder and call it whatever. There you go. I'm going to trash this. Okay. Next, you'll open up Visual Studio Code. I already have it open over here. And now on this welcome page, you can go to Open Folder, or you can go up here, which I'll do, and go to File, Open. And then look for that folder you made on your desktop. Mine's Matt's Code, so I'll open that. Okay, and here we go. This window may not open for you guys. I believe it opened because I was on like here earlier, but anyways, we're here. And let me close this tab, this welcome tab. All right, so before we get started, I want you to go over here to extensions and install Python, this Python extension. Mine says uninstall because I've already installed it, so install that. And then I believe this is optional. You can go to Code Runner, but I'll just recommend it anyways. Go to Code Runner here, and then install that. And once you're done with that, we'll go back to this Explorer icon, these two pages. Let's close that out. Now, as you can see here, we don't have any files. The folder's empty. You can click on this new file icon here, or you can go up to File, New File, which is what I'll do. And then when this pops up, just click Text Editor Built In, this one. Okay. Then I'll close this and then open that up again because some of you guys probably don't have that open. And I'll show you how to do that. But before we get there, let's do File, Save As, to save this new file we made, this Untitled 1. And we're going to call it main.py, py. That's the Python file extension. And it's in our Matt's Code folder, so we'll save that. And boom, you see this little snake icon, this Python icon. Visual Studio Code knows that this is a Python file. Okay, just checking my time. So let's write our first program. You'll do lowercase print, and then in the parentheses, you can see that Visual Studio Code automatically gave you a closing parentheses. But in between the parentheses, we'll do quotation marks. It also autofills the double quote. And we'll type hello world, exclamation mark. And now we'll save this. You can do Command S if you're on Mac or Control S if you're on Windows. And now we can see that it's saved because that white circle disappeared. You could also do File, Save, like that. So we saved our changes, and now we're going to run it. Now if you have Code Runner, you can do this play button, run code, but later on we'll be using the terminal. But just to show you this way, we'll click that, and we see Hello World. Congratulations, you've made your first program. And if you did this play button, it'll pop this window up. So what we'll be using moving forward is the terminal. So just click there. Now if you, so you have this play button if you downloaded Code Runner. If you didn't download Code Runner, which again, I'm just going to say just do that. But if you didn't, you can just go up here to Terminal and then do New Terminal. And then you'll get this. Okay, so to show you the way in the terminal, if you're on a Mac, you'll type Python 3 space, the name of your file, which is main.py, and hit enter. And now if you're on Windows, you'll just type Python space, the name of your file, and hit enter. But since I'm on Mac, I'll do this. And we get Hello World. You can see it here. Okay, so yeah, that was your first program. If you want to take a break, you want to pause, you can do that anytime. I want to try and make this video in like the 20-minute like ballpark, but on the takes I've been doing recently, it goes up to like 30 minutes. But yeah, Hello World is the traditional first program that new programmers do when starting out. Let's give it a try. We already gave it a try. And there's code. So next, I want to talk about variables. So variables, they're important in programming. They're the names for places where we store data. And variables come in multiple types, such as strings, characters, integers, and floats. Those are some basic variable types. And give your variables a unique name. Try to be descriptive. And in Python, the variable type isn't defined until you assign it data. So I'll show you in Visual Studio Code making these variables, but first I'm going to talk about them a little bit. So strings. A string variable is a collection of characters. You can think of it as a text variable. Some examples are hello world, my name is Matthew, capital A, 4. It can even be just like no character. So this is like a string. It's a collection of 0 characters. And then we have character variables. So that's a single letter or symbol. And there's some examples there. Okay, and I'll show you in Visual Studio Code, mess around with it a bit. So if we want to make a string variable, first we'll type the variable name, let's say message. And so right now, in Python, like it doesn't know what type of variable message is. So for example, we can make it an integer, like 5. We can make it a character, like this, single quotes, capital A, single quotes. We can make it a string, which is double quotes. And it could be something like, let's say, Matthew. So yeah, the type of variable isn't defined until we assign a value to it. And this equal sign is the assign operator. So we'll assign Matthew to this variable. So now message is storing that value of Matthew. And if we do something like this, call our print function and put the variable message inside of it, what do you think it's going to print out when we run it? And a quick tip, if you just hit up on the arrow key, like I'm doing now, then I'm hitting down, it goes to the like most recent command that you put into the terminal. So this is quicker than typing out Python 3 main.py all the time. So I hit up, and then I hit enter, and we get Matthew. So to explain that again, the print function, to explain it, the print function is printing the value that's stored in the variable message. And the value that's stored in the variable message is Matthew, because we assigned that to this variable. Okay. And let's see. So if we wanted to make message a character variable, I'm going to do single quotes, capital A, and save your changes before running the code, or else it won't, run the code with the new changes. So similar to like how if you're writing a Word document, like an essay, you save your changes and then you like send it to your teacher or professor. So, okay, I'm gonna run this, and we get capital A. You can also concatenate them. So concatenation, that's basically just combining both of them together. So let's say we have message equals a message variable, a variable name message, and we give it the value of Matthew. And then let's say we have another variable, let's call it fruit, and we'll give it the value of apple. So if we do something like this, where we print message plus fruit, let me run this, we get Matthew apple. And there's something else I want to mention about variables. So I did say give them like unique names, or like you want to be descriptive. Uh, while I'm teaching, you may see me just use some like really like not good variable names, but it's for teaching purposes, just like showing an example. So quick PSA about that. And also with variables, they're one word. They can be capital or lowercase, but mind you, they're case sensitive. So message, like up there, is not the same as capital M message, or even the same as M capital E message, And it's one word, not a space. So this will give you an error. So yeah, those are things to look out for. So let's run this code. Oh wait, I think I already did. Sorry. Yeah, Matthew Apple. If we put a space within the string, so it's a space character, and then the A character, P character, P character, L, E. Let's save the changes, run it, and now it looks nicer. Matthew Apple. Let's see what else. So yeah, that's strings, characters. You can also concatenate a string and a character together, or a character and a character together. So I could do this. I run it, we get Matthew A. Okay. Now integer variables. These are whole numbers, positive or negative. And here's some examples: 5, -12, 0. And then we have float variables, which are decimal numbers. So we have some examples here: 5.0, -12.37, and 0.0. And to show you that in Visual Studio Code, let's say we have, I'll say num1 is equal to, oh, I want to show you a quick thing with strings before I get into this. You could also concatenate like a hard-coded string. So instead of like concatenating, oops, let me make this. Okay. So instead of doing message plus fruit, we could just hard code something in like orange, like this string, save it, and then run it, and we get Matthew Orange. Okay, so back to what I was doing. Oh, and also, well, yeah, let me get into integers and then I'll say something else. So let's say we have something called mynum1, or no, just mynum equal to 5. Oh, I typed 4, equal to 5. We do print mynum, save that, and when we run it, we get 5. Now, something to note is that this, let me say I have another variable. Let's call it, I'll call it string num, and it's equal to 5. So these two things, they're different things. So this is an integer, like this is the like number value of 5, like an integer, and this is like the text, like string value of 5. If that makes sense. So you can't add these together and get like 10, for example. You get an error. Let me show you that. So we did something like this. In the print function, we're trying to add or concatenate or whatever a string and an integer. If we do that, you get an error. And something cool here, like in the terminal, you see that it helps you find out what the error is. We see line 5, here line 5, and it's saying type error. Unsupported operand type for int and string. So you can't add this together. And I'll get into a way to work around this later. But more on ints and floats. So we can do simple arithmetic with these, such as adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and more. So we do print mynum plus 5. And mind you, see there's no double quotes. This is the integer number value of 5. So if we run this, we get 10. Cool. And then if we want to multiply, we'll use the asterisk, which is above the 8 key. Save our changes, run it, we get 25. I'm just going to show you these 4. Subtract, and we get 0. And then divide with the slash, and we get 1.0. Cool stuff. Okay. Let's see. And then if we have, let's say we want to make this a float, so I'm just going to do 5.23. And you can do all the same stuff here. So if we divide it by 5, you get 1.046. You can divide it by, like, let's say 5.1, something like this. Run it, and there you get that. Yeah, with variables, you can set it to be equal to another variable. So let's say we have something called mynum1 is equal to 7. You can say mynum, and you can do this with strings. Mynum2 is assigned the value of mynum1. Print mynum2. And when we run this, we get 7. Cool. And then maybe you want to like have this mynum2 variable be like some kind of manipulation of this first variable. So let's say we want it to be like, what's mynum1 plus 2? And we want to assign this value into mynum2. And print it. And we get 9. So you might think, well, Matthew, why don't we just say mynum1 is equal to 7 plus 2? Well, maybe in your program you don't want to lose track of this 7 value, and you don't want to lose track of my num1's value of 7. So that's like one case. Oh, there's something else I wanted to show you guys. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you can also do like parentheses to like kind of like algebra. So you could do something like this. Like let's say 7 times 2 minus 10. So that way, you know, you're doing this. You don't want to do something like funky, like 7 times negative 8, you know, like you don't want to be, if you didn't have the parentheses, you don't want something like 7 times negative 8 because it did this first instead of doing this. So something like that to happen. So I'll save the changes and I'll run it. And we get 4. 7 times 2 is 14. Minus 10 is equal to 4. So that 4 value is assigned to my num1. And there you go. So that's a quick thing on the variable types. Working with variables. Yeah, we get errors if we try and add a like number value with a string or a character. And okay, variable compatibility and ranking. So like I said, like we have that issue of trying to add a string and a number together. So what we can do is something called like type conversion or typecasting. So with type conversion, we express that value as a different type. In typecasting, we change that variable into a different type. So let me show you a quick example. So let's say we have something called my name is equal to the string and it's Matthew. And then let's say we have a variable called like my num and it's equal to 4. And I want to print both of these together. If I do print my name plus my num, we're going to get an error because we can't. So I can convert my num, I can convert the value stored in my, I can express the value stored in my num to be a string. Let me change this from Mather to Matthew. So I do that with the string conversion. We just do str and put what you want to convert in that parentheses. So you have my num in there. So let me save that. And now when we run this, we get Matthew 4. Now we may want a space between that, so we can do quote, quote, concatenate with that. So like this. And we get Matthew 4. Cool beans. Alternatively, we could have also just put a space here, like that. And then when we run it, we get Matthew 4. Okay, so that's something on type conversion. And then if we have, let me show you this. String num, let's say that's equal to quotations 5. So this is a string variable. And we have num, which is equal to 5. And we want to print 10, so we want to add these both together. We can do something like this. Num plus int for integer, parentheses, string num. And that'll convert this string, the value stored in this variable, this string variable, into an integer. So we can add them together like math, and we get 10. Cool. Alternatively, I'll show you typecasting, where we change the value stored inside of it into we change the value stored inside of it to a different type. So let me show you a quick example. So right now we have this string value stored into string num. We can do this, string num. So So this value that's inside string num, which is quotations 5, we express that as an integer, which is just 5, like this, and we store that inside of string num, making string num an integer type variable. And you can see that the int there, that's kind of a hint, but above here it says string. But when it gets down to this part, it's integer. So we can just add them like this. Even though it's called string num, which is like a misleading variable name, you run that and we get 10. Okay, we're reaching the 30-minute mark, so I do want to wrap things up kind of quickly. I'll talk about the input function. Okay, so I'll talk about this. We pretty much know how to do the output because I showed you that with when I was talking about the string variable. So I'll talk about this input function, this new one. Oops. So in Python, we can get input by using the input function. We can store that input into a variable to use. Input function allows us to write a prompt inside the parentheses to give a message out before getting input. There's an example, input, parentheses, and here's the prompt. Enter a number, please. And important thing to note is that the input function takes whatever we put in as a string automatically. But luckily, we can do our typecasting or type conversion to express it as an integer if you want to do that, or store it as an integer. So let me go back here and show you the input function. Well, actually, so I'll show you an example. Let's say we have something, let's say a variable called username, and I want that value in the variable username to be whatever the user inputs. So I'll do input, I'll give the user a prompt so they know what I want. Enter your name. And mind you, you don't even have to write a prompt, but it's nice because when you're running your code, it like helps you know what to enter. So we'll do that, and then I'll print out, let's say your name is space. I'll concatenate that with this username variable. Save this. We'll run it. And you see here in the terminal, enter your name, that white square. Let's say my name is Freddy from iCarly. Enter that, and we get your name is Freddy. So this Freddy that I typed here, it got stored into the username variable, and it's automatically a string, so we didn't have to do any like type conversion stuff. Now, let's say we have user num, and we want the person to enter a number, and we'll say your number is plus, and we'll change this to user num variable. Now you can probably already foresee a problem happening here. If it's going to take our number as a string and we try and add or concatenate that with your number is, we're going to get a problem. And I'll just run this code just to show you. Enter your number. Let's say 8. Your number is 8. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, my bad. There isn't a problem because it's a string. Oops. Okay, yeah, string plus string, no problem. Let me show you an example where we want to do something like this. Your number plus 2 is, so this function, we want to show them the number they entered plus 2. So something like this. So now we'll get a problem. I say 8, type error. We can't do this num plus 2. So to rectify this issue, we can convert whatever they input. We can do a typecasting yeah, this is typecasting. So we can typecast their input into an integer. So we'll do int left parentheses and this whole thing in right parentheses. So what this is doing, what we input here, 8, the string 8 gets converted into, or well, it's expressed as a integer, which is just integer value 8, and then that is stored into user num. Okay, so let me clear this. I'll pause it here, and you may see another issue coming up. Enter your number, 8. There's a problem here. So yeah, type error can only concatenate string, not integers. So this here, we don't have a problem. But when we try and concatenate this integer value, we do have a problem. So here, I will do a type conversion, just string, left parentheses, and then a right parentheses. So now, let's see what happens. Enter your number, 8. Your number plus 2 is 10. Awesome. So there you go. And okay, I'm at the 34-minute mark. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, this is talking about like, you want to print a string and a number. Basically like what we just did. Something else about the print function. So like how we've been doing, we concatenate, and then we do a type conversion. You could also do it like this, where it's like my name is, and you just do curly brackets where you'd have a variable. Okay, and end with the double quote. Then dot period format parentheses name comma age and then parentheses. And mind you, so this first variable goes into this first curly bracket. The second variable goes into the second curly bracket. And you could do more curly brackets and then have more variables separated by commas to go into those curly brackets. So that's another way to do it. I like doing this way. Whatever suits you. And I think there's something else. Oh yeah. So with the type conversion, I showed you string and integer. You could also do it with floats. And so that's something else to consider. And challenge. So I'm going to leave you guys with this challenge. It's I do these challenges each chapter. This challenge is called What's My Name? How old am I? And maybe you get a joke here. What's my name? And Drake and Rihanna. If you're not too young. Okay, so using the tools you have now, let's put your knowledge to the test. Write a program that will ask the user for input for its name. Then you'll output the user's name. Next, ask the user to input what year they were born, and then you'll output their age. So how do we know someone's age based off the year they were born? Well, that's some simple math. And here's an example of a solution. What's your name? User inputs Matthew. You output your name is Matthew. Here's another one. Here's the second part. Prompt, what year were you born? User input 1738. Output, you are 282 years old. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to comment down below. And yeah, so thank you guys, and I'll see you on chapter 2.